Hello friends, and welcome to another episode of Team Jesus Outdoors. I'm preparing for a trip tomorrow to Lake St. Clair, and just like almost every time I go to Lake St. Clair with my friends, someone calls me up and says, hey, what should I bring? And most of the time these are my buddies that have been with me dozens of times, and I tell them the same thing every time. There are 3 systems that you need to be throwing when you're fishing Lake St. Clair. Now, two of these I would propose are simply undeniable. You cannot argue with number 1 and number 2. Number 3 is a little on the old school side, and some guys will argue that it's no longer relevant. But as far as I'm concerned, there are 3 systems that you need to be throwing when you come to Lake St. Clair. And to support my point, I will point to the Bassmaster Elite event that was on St. Clair 2 or 3 weeks ago, earlier in the month. You can look right down the list of the top 30 in that event, and you will find that 95% of the top 30 were throwing 1 or 2 or both of my number 1 and my number 2 baits for Lake St. Clair. So let's just jump right into it. Number 1, and without question, has to be a drop shot. According to the Bassmaster website, at least 7 of the top 10 anglers were using a drop shot as one of their primary rigs on Lake St. Clair. I can't even remember a professional event on Lake St. Clair where a drop shot wasn't a factor every day of the event. Now, my drop shot system looks something like this. I've got a large Plano box with most of my plastics still in their factory packages, and then I've got a small Plano box with my rigging systems. My favorite drop shot hooks are the Spinshot hooks. As you can see, this hook incorporates a swivel to keep you from getting line twist. Now, you can use a regular hook, but if I do that, then I run a swivel. I will run a swivel up line in the system because I don't want to deal with the line twist. And there are literally thousands of soft plastics that are completely effective on a drop shot. My personal favorites are going to be a Biospawn plasma tail, robo worms, drop shot tubes. These are little 2 and 2.5 inch drop shot tubes. The KVD Dream Shot from Strike King, or the KVD half shells. Poor Boys darters are an oldie but a goodie. I still occasionally use some of the old Poor Boys gobies. These goby style soft plastics were real popular about 15 years ago. Another very popular bait on your drop shot is a Fluke Junior or a Fluke, or the Strike King Z2. In the recent Elite event, a lot of the guys were using the Strike King Z2 and doing very, very well with it. But that's it. Drop shots. The drop shot system's more than 20 years old. You can find any information you want about a drop shot. I've done some drop shot videos in the past. I'll leave a link to those in the description below. But number 2 on my list is really a very, very close second. I've been using the Ned Rig on St. Clair now for about 4 to 5 years. And there are days when I have more confidence in a Ned Rig than I do in the drop shot. My favorite Ned rigging components: My favorite Ned Rig soft plastics are the Z-Man products, and primarily because they're Elastec. But I love the Z-Man TRD, the Finesse TRD. I love the big TRD, and occasionally I'll throw the ticklers. And my two favorite colors are green pumpkin and the deal. The one thing that I do a lot differently than many people is I will absolutely insist on using tungsten Ned heads. For years, for the last several years, I've been using the Swagger tackle. These are a very traditional, just like the Z-Man style of mushroom head, but it's tungsten. And anytime I'm trying to maintain bottom contact, whether it's with a Ned head or a drop shot or anything else, Carolina rig, I like the added feel of tungsten. Now granted, tungsten costs about 3 times as much as the same product in lead. So everyone just has to decide for themselves, is it worth the cost? But to me, for my money, I'll take the tungsten all day, every day. I can feel the bottom so much better with tungsten than lead. To me, it's a no-brainer. I'll pay the $2 a jig. Number 3 on my list, and a bait that I've been using since I started fishing in the 90s, is a good old tube. Despite the fact that the tube's been around for decades, it's still something that I throw every year. It's still a bait that we catch a ton of St. Clair smallies on every year.
You say that every year, but you're wrong again.
Why?
That's only about 4.
I know, but lengthwise.
It's a beauty.
Last but not least, and this is where a lot of guys are going to say that this is old school and outdated and say I'm crazy, but I say that you still can't beat an old school 3.5 or 4 inch good old tube. And I'm talking about just a lead jig inserted into a plastic tube. The tube has caught so many untold millions of smallmouth bass on Lake St. Clair over the last 30 years. To me, there's no way to write this bait off. I'm always going to have tubes in my boat. I carry a pretty healthy selection of tube jig weights from 1/8 of an ounce all the way up to 1/2 ounce. Actually, I believe these are 3/4 of an ounce. Now, honestly, I rarely ever use an 1/8 of an ounce on Lake St. Clair. More commonly, I'm going to use a 1/4 of an ounce up to a 1/2 or a 3/4. My favorite tubes on Lake St. Clair are Wayne Carpenter's Xtreme bass tackle tubes. And my favorite colors are Canadian Mist and the good old G2, which is a green pumpkin base.
It's not a bad one. Not a bad one at all.
Not only do we catch smallmouth bass on tubes on Lake St. Clair every year, but most years we catch some really, really nice bass on 3 and 4 inch tubes. In fact, just last week, my buddy Rob caught his new personal best, a 21 inch smallie that easily went over 5 pounds on a Canadian Mist tube.
Is that on the tube rod?
Yeah. There you go.
That's a nice fish. Oh my gosh, Rob. That's a tank.
Oh, yeah.
He just came on.
All right, I think that's my biggest.
That is your biggest, Rob. That is a nice fish. That's got to be an 18 or 19 incher too. But hey guys, that's it. That's my system. That's my Lake St. Clair system. I'm also going to have some sort of reaction baits laying on the front deck. I'm going to have a spinner bait or a jerk bait, occasionally a chatter bait, depending on the depth of water I'm fishing. But I'm always going to have some sort of reaction bait in addition to these finesse baits. And then if the lake totally slicks off, I've almost always got a spy bait in the boat also. And I'll throw a spin bait 80 spy bait if it really slicks off. Hey guys, that's it. That to me is what everybody ought to have when they come to Lake St. Clair. You gotta bring drop shot equipment. Don't even bother coming to Lake St. Clair if you don't bring drop shot equipment. You gotta bring a Ned Rig. And to me it's silly not to have a small assortment of tubes. Besides those baits, you want to bring some of your favorite reaction baits, crankbait, spinnerbait, chatterbait, spy bait. Guys, if you've enjoyed this short video, please smash that like button. Make sure to subscribe to Team Jesus Outdoors if you haven't already. If you're interested in biblical teaching or you're interested in exploring your faith, I encourage you to click on that link to the TJO Men's Ministries and check out the messages on our other channel. Friends, thanks for watching. God bless. Tight lines. We'll see you guys on the water.